Justin.
Buri, Executive Director of the Community Alliance of Tenants, Oregon's only statewide, grassroots, tenant-led renters' rights organization. With over 1,000 tenant members, our mission is to educate, organize, and empower Oregon renters to demand and obtain safe, stable, and affordable rental housing. Low-income tenants, predominantly low-wage workers, families of children, people living with disabilities, seniors, and people of color are CAT's primary membership base. In Portland and the rest of Oregon, tenants face housing injustice in the form of increasing rents, discrimination, unsafe housing conditions, and the constant threat of retaliation or eviction. Portland is one of the most gentrified cities in the nation and has among the highest rates of rent increases, displacement, and no-cause evictions. Landlords and developers issuing such evictions and dramatically raising rents are forcing responsible and reliable tenants into one of the worst housing markets in our history without considering the impact on the individual tenants or our community. Portland's unprecedented low vacancy rate gives landlords more power over tenants, increasing incidents of discrimination and retaliation. These conditions make it easy for a landlord to refuse when a tenant asks for a repair and demands accounting for bogus fees or deposit charges. These challenges that renters face, especially rent hikes, evictions, and other forms of displacement, are especially dire for tenants with high barriers and members of protected classes under the Fair Housing Act. Tenants cannot wait for incremental change. We need bold, courageous action to address this human-made disaster. Building-wide, no-cause evictions are popping up like brush fires across the city, fanning the flames of displacement, and our communities continue to bleed. The flood of speculation from Wall Street, corporate landlords, and private investors buying up buildings to empty them and raise rents has dire consequences on people's health, economic stability, and their children's educational opportunities. We need real leadership from this housing commissioner, this mayor, and this city council. We are in a renter state of emergency. In CAT's 19-year history, we have never seen it this bad. Tenants are in dire distress and in need of immediate relief. Mass evictions of entire buildings, 30, 50, even 100% increases are impacting our communities and threatening the social fabric of our city, and there is no end in sight. We can count the number of cranes in the air right now, building more luxury apartments. But how many of these new apartments will be available and affordable to low-income and even middle-income renters? When will we going to recognize that building only market rate luxury apartments will never trickle down to lower income tenants, no matter how many we build, despite all the zoning changes, cash incentives, and sweetheart deals we offer to developers? How long does this council think it takes to find a decent apartment in our rental market? How many affordable apartments are in your neighborhood? Likely with good schools, transportation options, low crime, and neighbors you know and trust. How long would it take you to move if you received a no-cause termination notice tomorrow? Now imagine if you had a bad credit from a foreclosure, medical debt, or student loans. Would you qualify? Imagine if you received a no-cause notice after you had asked for a repair. Would you put that landlord as a reference on your next rental application? Imagine you had a criminal record because you had been once sleeping outside and arrested from these homeless sweeps. Imagine if you had been racially profiled or a victim of this war on drugs that targets African Americans and people of color. Would you qualify for an apartment? Imagine if you made minimum wage to support your family and worked the 72 hours per week it takes to afford a modest 2-bedroom apartment. Where would you find the time to move? Where would you live? Would 30, 60, or even 90 days be enough? In order to move, you have to take days off of work to find a vacancy, pay multiple application fees, hope and pray that you are finally accepted, move your family, change your children's school, find a new bus route to work, pay the deposit, first and last month's rent, pay the movers, clean the house, and pray you get even a fraction of your deposit back. How long would that process take for you? Is 30, 60, or 90 days enough? Do you have money in your savings to do that? For the majority of tenants, the answer is no. Low-income tenants, people of color, people with disabilities, working families making poverty wages, and seniors in a fixed income are being told, if you don't like it, move, which really means you are no longer welcome to live in this city. Tenants are tired and in distress, tired of moving, tired of our homes making us sick, tired of paying over half of our income on rent. Tenants are tired of being silenced out of fear, out of retribution, or a bad reference from a landlord. Tenants are tired of being told that our voices, our experience, our stories don't matter. Tenants are tired of hearing housing will have to wait. We have more important priorities right now. Tenants make up almost half of Portland's population and deserve to be heard. It's time for bold, courageous leadership from our housing commissioner, from our mayor, and from our city council. If you want to see examples of leadership, look to Chair Kafori and the County Board of Commissioners who have committed to housing every homelessness veteran by the end of the year with a home for everyone. Look to Governor Kate Brown, who helped champion $62 million for housing in her first year. Look to Speaker Tina Kotek, who fought to include tenants with Section 8 as a protected class under the Fair Housing Act, and fought to include rentals in this year's inclusionary zoning bill, which ultimately died in the Senate. If you want to see examples of real courage, look at all the renters that are here today, despite their fear of retaliation from their landlord when they speak out. It's time to recognize that Portland is not livable, equitable, nor sustainable when tenants are being pushed out of their homes. It's time to recognize that housing is a human right and that should not be left to the underregulated free market. It's time to prioritize the needs of all Portland residents, not just the landlords, investors, tech companies like Airbnb, and developers. It's time to prioritize people over profit and recognize that everyone who lives in here has a right to the city.
Folks, let him talk. I know you agree, but let him talk, please.
We can no longer wait for incremental change or accept the breadcrumbs that are thrown to us so we can count it as a win. If the intent of this 90-day proposal is to act as the first step and building block of real change and have the commitment of this housing commissioner, mayor, and council of enacting real immediate change, then we can support it. If the intent of this 90-day proposal is to say that you've done all you can do and go back to business as usual, then we cannot. We are calling for a moratorium or suspension of no-cause terminations for 1 year and to increase the notice period of rent increases over 5% of rent from the current 30 days to 1 year. 30, 60, or 90 days notice is not enough, either to move quickly or absorb a shocking rent increase, especially in today's disaster-like housing crisis. We will no longer accept that your hands are tied due to explicit or implicit preemption in Oregon state law. If that is the case, then demonstrate the courage and leadership necessary to either change them or challenge them. The Supreme Court of the United States has reaffirmed disparate impact under the Fair Housing Act, so let's use it. Both the City of Portland and the State of Oregon are currently compiling their analysis of impediments to affirmatively furthering fair housing. Evictions, rent hikes, displacement, and substandard housing are fair housing issues and should be treated as such. These unjust laws and policies, such as the ban on rent control, inclusionary zoning, and the no-cause evictions statute, should be challenged, just as the landlords will likely challenge this modest proposal by Housing Commissioner Saltzman. Tenants can no longer wait for our Housing Commissioner, Mayor, and City Council to act. We need bold, courageous leadership in this human-made disaster. We are in a renter state of emergency.
Thank you very much. Thank you.